Friday is here, round 2 is here, and NBL Now is here to kickstart your weekend of hoops. The throwdown, some bad news for the Bullets, and a massive weekend of hoops in New South Wales. All on the deck this morning, plus a big rivalry clash tonight. Joel Peterson with you, alongside former Sydney Kings captain Brad Rosen. Morning, Brad.
Morning, Joel. Happy Friday. What a weekend it is, and I'm pumped. Got a couple of games to call this weekend. Let's get the show on the road.
Yeah, it is one of the great sporting weekends. There's no doubt about that, and the NBL plays such a big role in it, which is great. It all started last night with the throwdown. Melbourne United win by 12 in the end. Southeast Melbourne tied that game up late. They were in it to win it. They fell away toward the end. United pull away by 12 points. What did you take from last night's throwdown 25?
Melbourne. How good are they? They've come off a good win round one. Delhi is gone to another level. We talk about it this time last year, and the commentary team, Gaze and Coach, were talking about it as well, how, he had a point to prove because he wanted to make the Olympics. Well, it looks like he's got another point to prove, and I don't know what it is. I just think he wants to win a championship. But he's been brilliant, and he played really well last night, solid. I thought, to have an Olympian like Chris Goulding coming off the bench, what a luxury. I thought Ian Clark was great. Jack White, there was talk about what happened in the first half. Dominant in the second half. Really love what Melbourne are doing. Top three teams, I put them, Perth and Sydney, right there, and then everyone else below that. Loving what they're doing, Melbourne. Right back to where they started, and you can see they got that chip on their shoulder, and that's what happens when you lose Game 5 on the home, right, in a final. So they want to, revenge that, and they're looking great.
What about the Southeast Melbourne side of things? So big spending off-season, second year under Mike Kelly. They make some front office changes. They bring back Simon Mitchell, who was coaching the team, to be in the front office, and now he's kind of sitting down the end of the bench, and they have all this roster change, and then they start 0-2, and they've played two good teams, but are there concerns for you in the way they're going about it?
Yeah, Joel, I'm worried for them. I had them in my top six with our very early predictions that we had to do in the NBL. And I had them in my top six. I loved what they brought. I love what they, were able to recruit. The fact that they've just literally turned left from where they were and thought, right, we're going to regrow, we're going to do it. The Sobey signing, the Hunter signing, the Glover signing. I think, Walton Jr., they're three imports, all of them. I love what they're bringing, and I think they're performing really well. Jordan Hunter's great in the middle, and I agree with you, Joel. You look at it and go, right, we lost to Perth in Perth. We've lost to Melbourne at home. They're two top three teams, no question. It's just how they're losing, Joel. I'm not liking it. That defensive stance that I thought I would see, I don't see it for 40 minutes. I see it at times. There was times where Sobey got up and into Delhi, and it was a 24-second shot clock, and you're like, here we go. Here's the Phoenix that we're expecting to see. But I'm not seeing it, and I worry that it's not there for 40 minutes. A lot of talk about Sobey. I know that he's not, performing to where I know he would want to be as well. The shooting was, I think, 2 of 11 last night. He's really got to be the leader of that team. There's no question. They've built some stuff around him, but he's got enough cattle around. So I'm concerned. There's always pressure on, when you win, it's the players. When you lose, it's the coach, right? So there's always pressure on coaches. But, Mike Kelly, there's a lot of substitutions going in and out. It still seems they're trying to find their balance on where it is. You can't do that in this league. You've got 28 games to be able to get it done. So concerned for them. Certainly not, massive panic stations and let's fire everyone and put the flag out. But I think they need to get going, and they need to get going quick.
Yeah, they've got the Adelaide 36ers next, so that's that is no layover.
But all games are like that, Joel. Like, then you could say they could go to Cairns, and you think, oh, how Cairns going? Cairns at home? No, you don't want to play them. So yeah, that's they got to get going.
And the 36ers are going to find out about that this weekend.
Yes.
Let's talk about our doubleheader tonight. You'll be a part of our broadcast for the first game, so will I. We're really looking forward to this. So Illawarra, Brisbane, it's a fascinating matchup on paper of a team that had the biggest win out of last weekend's Hoops Fest versus the team that arguably had the most disappointing loss. Let's start with the Hawks. From what you've seen from their roster construction and how you sort of sum them up coming into tonight, how highly do you rate them?
Very. And, I was blessed where I called that many games of them last year. So I was there. I saw it. I saw what they went through at the start and how, that was so difficult for them. They make the coaching change and then just everything, not slot. It was bang. It was vertical. This thing went up. It was unbelievable. Then when in the off season and when we were doing our early predictions, as I'm calling it, I didn't have Illawarra there because I was worried, but then they signed Darius Days, and that guy can hoop. Love him. Think he's going to be brilliant. Very different to Gary Clark. He's a beast-like mode where Gary Clark was a bit more mobile, can hit that jumper, do that thing, and sort of just went along in a very cool and casual way as Gary Clark did, which suits Tatum because he is the coolest man in Wollongong. Tatum, man. He is so cool. And it's like when you walk in and Tatum comes in, it's like the principal of the school's walked in. I'm nervous to be around him. He's so cool and he's a great guy. So love what they've done. They are so big, Joel. Like they've got no one. Like there's no Brad Rosen's 5-footers out there. It's ridiculous, right? They're all 6'2", 6'3" up. I think Tyler Harvey's one of the shortest ones. So loving what they're doing. Illawarra looking great, and I see nothing but a win for them tonight, where I know there'll be a very, very big crowd and the atmosphere will be great.
It'll be awesome. The Brisbane side of it. So Sam McDaniel ruled out for the entire season, coming off an MVP and
such a shame.
Defensive Player of the Year in the NBL 1 North. Josh Bannon will be a game-time decision coming back from his broken hand. They were so disappointing last week. Absolutely mauled on the rebounds and really just in the big man department by a New Zealand team that you wouldn't have assessed that as being a strength for them. How big a loss is McDaniel to the Bullets, and do you think they can bounce back?
Where do we start with the Bullets, Joel? You're so right, and that was New Zealand without their import big, who got suspended for a game, as we know. So I'm going to start with the Brisbane. Let's start with McDaniel. That is such a shock, and I'm so upset for him. I dislocated my shoulder in '96 in a game, and it was in an ABA game, which is now NBL 1. It's so hard because you go back there to, hone your craft and get some shots up and play that role. He dislocated it. I was out for 6 weeks. I forever strengthened it. It kept popping out in games. I had shoulder, needles and everything to try and get through it. And then I ended up having to have surgery at the end of my career because it just kept slipping out. I like what they've done because if he's dislocated, the muscles around him are loose. So, right, let's go get that right because you've got still a long career ahead. So that's the first thing. It's going to be a tough 6 months for him because he won't be able to do much. What the loss is, I rate him as their best defender. I think his on-ball defense is outstanding, and everyone needs that player. Whatever it is, every team has it, and I love what he brings that club. That is a massive out. And to lose him for the season, that is huge. Bannon, that's another one. They need that kid. He's been brilliant for them. I can't believe he's only been in the league 1 year. He's like a veteran after one season. So he's a massive loss. I go back to last week and I was like, where were the bigs? They were so dominant in the blitz. Harrison's come off, the MVP of the blitz. Unbelievable, the Ray Border medalists, and their points in the paint. They played Melbourne in a game up in the Blitz, and points in the paint were 50 plus in the paint. That's how good and dominant they were. 28 last week against a team where they should have been able to be 60 points, really, when you think about it. That's where the game was won and lost for me. The bigs were not around there. And what that means is now you've got your Bannons and these other guys and Prathers and gigs having to shoot from the outside, which is not a bad thing. But if you're constantly doing that, you're not going to win games. You need the inside and outside presence. So I'm so intrigued to see how they go tonight because obviously Schuler, he made it very clear that was dismal last week. He will rip into them this week. So how they respond, that's what I'm so keen about tonight. Win or loss, I don't know, but it's how they respond. And at a minimum, they need to come out with a cricket bat and go after the Illawarra Hawks from the absolute tip-off and let them know we're here and we're here to win.
Yeah, it couldn't have got much worse for them last week. There's an argument to say that just to bounce back off that performance could be enough, but it's probably about as bad a matchup as you could get going from what they had in terms of just being absolutely outmuscled last week.
Yep.
To then coming up against Olbrich, Days and Froling. Good luck.
How good's Olbrich, Colin? Oh. That guy's a beast.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't see, he's 6'10" and probably 5'10" wide. He's unbelievable. So, yeah, I can't wait to watch him again tonight. He's improved, and what he did in New Zealand in the off-season was great.
Yeah, hyperactive. He can pass the ball. He can shoot the ball. There's a lot of tools to young Lockie Olbrich. The nightcap is, it's always a special thing. The Sydney Kings have stayed over in Perth after Hoops Fest. and they get a Friday night test out west against the Perth Wildcats. So 2 winners out of last week. Before we talk about the game, let's talk about the rivalry, Brad, because I know that you would feel it pretty keenly, and you will have at times over the course of the years, but these two fan bases don't like each other. These franchises don't like each other. It's always fun.
Hello, everyone in Perth. I know you hate me. I know you hate the Kings. It's all good. The feeling is a little bit mutual, but there's much respect, right? I love it. I love what this rivalry is, and every sport needs it. I love what Perth have done. Their club is outstanding. The championships. The first game I ever got to play was against the Perth Wildcats, and I saw, Crawford and Vlahov and these type of players, and I was in awe from the second I went on that court. And I just love what Perth have been able to do since day one, how they've been able to build that program, and it is outstanding. Then the Kings, you look at what we've done. They call them violet crumbles, and then we come along, we win 3 championships, then we win another, all these couple, and then all these things are going. This is just fantastic rivalry, and it will be on tonight. Not to mention Derek Rucker. Thank you for putting Bryce Cotton in number 2, Derek. What are you thinking, mate? As if he needs any more motivation. Like, wow. And not only that, let's put Zave at 1. So now he's going to come up against him tonight. So, Bryce Cotton, congratulations for your 40-point effort tonight, but let's hope the Sydney Kings can still get the win.
How do they match up in your eyes?
Oh, I love it. Across the park is fantastic. I mean, you look at what Bullquall, you of course you're going to put him on Bryce. Now, the only thing that Bull's got to be careful of, obviously, is that foul trouble, and it's so obviously talked about. But I do like what Derek was talking about last week, where he says it's not as important for Bull now that if he gets fouled out, the loss of him is not as much as it is when he was in Cairns because they needed his scoring punch. I agree with what Derek's saying, but on the other hand, you don't want him out of the game. So show your hands, get it on the chest, no fouls. Let's stay in the game because we need you because you're that good on the defensive end. Plus 39 for him last week. I'm not a big plus-minus guy, but when you see that, wow. So I think, Keanu was great last week, and that's going to be a real key because the Kings don't have that sort of like normal 5 guy. Like Cam Oliver stretches a little bit. They're not a post-up guy. And because they'll have guys in and out, the matchup on Keanu will be big. But it's gorge, man. He's going to double. He'll double on the catch. He'll double after the first dribble. He'll play around with it. He'll stick Lee Arthur as well on Bryce Cotton. They've got so much tools. The Kings have 2 of everything. Every position they have it. So if one's not working, they go. Perth, really well coached, really humming at the moment. It's going to be an absolute ripper. Like their imports, they fill in really nicely around Bryce and Keanu. Yeah, let's get this thing. Can we start it now? Throw the ball in there. Let's go.
I'm ready to run through a wall after hearing all of that. Who wins?
Oh, look, I mean, I love that. I'm swaying towards the Kings, and everyone's going to say, of course. But one of the things Perth really have an advantage with, and I remember I used to struggle as well, when you play at 9:30 Sydney time, Melbourne time, and Brisbane time, right? Or Brisbane now, but if you play that time frame, Eastern, then by the time it's half time, it's like 11:30 in Sydney time, 10, or by the time you finish games and half time stuff. It's really hard. Like, you've got to get that much. The fact that they've literally been there for 2 weeks, I know I don't want to use the word acclimatized. That's a silly word, but I mean it in that sense where they're going to be fine. They're not worried about any of that. They haven't traveled. They haven't had to do anything. That's a real favor for the Kings. And one thing, the downside is they have been on the road a lot and they haven't been home and haven't had that comfort. So how is that going? But I know Gorge, this is the test I've always wanted. Play this game, get up, got to fly home. We're playing Illawarra on Sunday. This is no difference to what we're going to be in Game 5 come March this year. So that's where his motivation will be. And he'll be talking about that nonstop. So they'll be primed and ready to go. So that's why I'm favouring the Kings. But with Perth at home, thanks Derek Rucker for putting Bryce at number 2. Keanu's coming off. What a great game is. They're all fitting in nicely. Man, I'm telling you, it's 2 points in overtime by someone, but I'll go the Kings just by a flip of a coin.
We'll take that. That's a great primer for all that's to come tonight. And I was out in Perth for 2 days last week. I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what time it was. So
it's hard, isn't it? Like, it's crazy, but it makes a difference.
Yep, the week over there will definitely help the Sydney Kings. So that's tonight's games, of course. Then we got tomorrow night, another double header. So Cairns and Adelaide, the first game of those two. And then we head down to Tassie for another clash of the Jack Jumpers and Melbourne United. where the Ant Army gets to see that banner raised up, and that's going to be a really special occasion.
Jack, you give me Joel, you give me goosebumps as soon as I say that, because I'm thinking, like I was talking to Jack during the week and just saying like how exciting it would be to be down there in Tasmania. Even now, the talk of what's going on and everything, I'm so excited for them. It's so well deserved. Ireland defended. I still remember what Scott's Wealth was when he did that. I worry about them because no Jack McVeigh, you just don't replace a guy like that. It's so difficult, and I love how Scott, is saying we're not even looking to replace someone like that. How can you? So for that's why I think, that was what was missing last week in that loss. I mean, it was, a tough game, and I get it, but that was what was missing for me. So I don't know. I just I hope that the energy and the presence is what it should be, and I'm sure it will. And for that reason, I think they should get the win. Certainly after going 0-1, we never underestimate Tasmania, as we know.
Yeah, it's a pretty imposing place to play, especially when they're up and going, which they will be on Saturday night. And then Sunday is the second game of that doubleheader is New Zealand and South East Melbourne. The game you can see on Channel 10 from 10:30 Eastern time is the Freeway Series. You're going to be there, Brad. Sydney Illawarra. Gee, it's always such an exciting matchup.
Yeah, there's no way I can call who's going to win that one until after tonight. I really want to see how both teams are performing, injuries and all of that, but that's going to be really tough. Obviously, Sydney's first home game with Save back and the new team, Gorge back, so that'll be great. And then that New Zealand game, obviously New Zealand, got the win last week, and that was great. They're going to want to get 2-0 because they've got a tough gig. They're going over to the NBA, playing 3 games. Taco Fall joining them, which is pretty cool. And, so I'm really interested to see how they go over there, but 2 fantastic games on Sunday.
Yeah, brilliant way to get us ready for the weekend of hoops, Brad. Thanks very much. Look forward to seeing you the Gong tonight, and enjoy your weekend of hoops.
I'm leaving now. I'm heading down there. I'm just going to go and feel the atmosphere.
I thought you were going to head to Perth. I thought you were going to jump on the flight.
I reckon I can.
You're a very optimistic man. Great to have Brad Rosen with us on NBL Now. Thanks for your company. NBL.com.au, the NBL app, the place to go. And, of course, all that coverage on ESPN via KO and on Channel 10 on Sunday across the course of the weekend.